He's riding off into the sunset with a check for $40,000. The world number one and greatest chess player of all time, McNuggets Carlsberger, just wrapped up another win. This is the Croatia Rapid and Blitz, and my favourite games from the Blitz section actually happened on day 4. So we're going to look at a couple, one against Nodebek Abdusatorov and then another against Fabiano Caruana. We'll dive in first on Magnus playing pawn to e4 against Nodebek. This is a classic. His chess is just out of this world good. We see a Roy Lopez on the board here, and after a6, the bishop dropping back, everyone in his chess dog usually playing knight f6, but this little side move is played. Magnus prepares to take the centre. Now the knight deploys itself here, castles, and it rotates around here. Okay, we're in a bit of a sideline. The bishop now dropping back. Of course you could take, but you leave white with the lovely big centre. Natural development. Magnus now ploughs forth. Obviously Nodebek is aware of these ideas. He wants to fight back soon, maybe this kind of thing, right? But Magnus plays the quirky bishop to e3. Now it offers this shattering of the structure, which Nodebek really should go for. Who's better and why? Well, difficult to tell, right? Black with a lovely structure, white with a bit more space. Engine slightly prefers the space, right? But who knows what could happen. However, not played. Nodebek castles, and it's a very ugly move. Now already you could take here. This wasn't played, but smack bang wallop. Look at this for a tactic. It's a double attack here. Black actually has to kamikaze the knight with check, just one sample line, but look how well white's doing here, despite the compromised king position. Now let's run back. Magnus didn't do it. He instead went d6 immediately, also good, but what's Nodebek playing at? Very stinky opening variation, and not the good kind of stinky, that crumbly blue cheese. This is some real, are they smelly old socks cheese. Now we see knight c6 played, and this is very, very instructive from Magnus, because how does he carry on the development? Yes, you could take, but what's the real precise way to go here? Well, it's with this explosive c4, preparing to bring the knight to c3 and then to this outpost square here. And although you weaken d4, not a biggie, it's very well controlled, and of course this guy is crying his eyes out, entombed. So we see takes, pawn recaptures, now takes on d6 here, and Magnus doesn't even take back. Best move is knight to c3 PO, and to give you a sense of how bad the black position is, one of the top ways to play is queen b6, knight d5 and queen back. Not taking, the queen starts getting trapped and stuff. I mean, how can that be the best line there? Truly horrible position. So understandably, we see Nodebek playing the breakout move, pawn b5. Now after captures, it is a pawn sacrifice here, with the idea being that at least you can get this guy out, but look at the knight jumps, look at the pawns streaming, connected, past pawns. We see this one played, takes, rook recaptures, and the pawn drops. You could have defended it, by the way, but never for long. The queen and rook could always double up the pressure, and it's just too difficult to actually hold on to it. Queen b8's now played, goes to the pawn, offers the exchange. Of course Magnus captures, loves himself an endgame. He's grinding like a grandma. Now rook f2 covers that weak pawn, and after knight f8, you know, this one's really not achieved much on this square, so it looks to remaneuver. We see rook d1, great move. Rooks belong on half open files. You just take your eye off the ball with the pawn pushing right now. Let's create some pressure. f6 is very stinky, and after pawn b3, rook a7 to cover the pawn, therefore free the knight. Magnus now rotates his own pony. Knight e6 and a seahorse is spawned. It's such a beautiful domination. No pieces leaving the board. Magnus wants to keep the full tension. Rook c7, don't blunder your knight. It hits the outpost. I mean, it's absolute torture on the light squares, on the open files. Before Nodebek can settle, the pawn starts pushing. Knight b5, all of the pieces just just kicked from pillar to post. I mean, this is a masterpiece in technique, in conversion. Here come the running past pawns. A5 now played, rook c4, a glimmer of counterplay, but after rook b2, knight g5, not only is Magnus not bothered about the double D pawn, he actively encourages the taking of it with h4. Takes, rook takes, and this cool and calm, stunning move, it's simply rook c1. And if you take this pawn, for example, there's check. King's only got one square, unless you give away a knight. But then anywhere you drop a knight, this is how the line goes. You're a piece ahead, right? So we, of course, didn't see that. Nordebek makes some space for his king. But anyway, knight c7, rook goes, and a6. What a beautiful flow to the game. Yes, you can go here with the knight, but the pawns are running regardless. So knight c5 was played. It's a tactic. It wins knight for knight, but does it matter? Rook a1, we see resigns. Magnus hugely up on time as well. You know, say you take or something. Well, this rook slams down. The pawn is pushing. You just can't stop it. a7, rook in front, rook here. Just one sample line, but all of them are similar. There's nothing you can do to stop one of the pawns running through. What a stunner of a game. Jump to this one. It just gets better. Magnus playing the modern defence with pawn g6, an old favourite of his. I actually really want to start taking this up. I've been using Lotus Chess. I'm not about to start diving into an advert this video, but I will be advertising it a bit more. Truly love it. It's a great tool to learn openings. Fabi now takes all of this central space here, and after h6, knight g to e2, knight f6, you know, so provocative from the black player. Constantly there are these pawn breaks. Let's not get too hung up on how you should respond every time. We see knight g3 and b4. Fabi can settle. Magnus pushes. Not the best, actually. Let's run back. What should he do? Just a little bit of development. Order of the day. Soon play for c5 perhaps. But okay, this is a standard idea in many positions. How should Fabi respond? It's got to be this one. He didn't play it, because although you can double the pawns, these are actually very annoying, stopping a lot of black pawn breaks, and h5 is coming. Queen d3. If you ever push, you get knight f5. If you ever allow the exchange, well, the queen on d3 pressures. Some very nice ideas. Knight e2 to f4 can come. I had a real click around, so that wasn't played, but it was the way to go. Fabi instead plays the horrible g5, and this is where it's so tricky. Just one mistiming of the position, bang, the evaluation changes. Look at Eval Barovic, not loving it. Magnus takes, pawn recaptures, chops off the rooks here. He could take on c3, play this position. We're in analysis mode. Knight d7's coming, e5, c5, there's options, but he didn't like it. He instead preferred to drop the knight back. Knight a4 keeps way more tension, and this, by the way, not the best move. This knight should probably be dropping back, stay a bit centralised, but this is how the game went, and Magnus now plays the best move, and it's the advance of the c-pawn. Sets himself up a beautiful connect 4. Only goes and unlocks a spa day with Danny Wrench, robes, slippers, the whole shebang. Lovely way to just relax, de-stress, especially before the baby comes along. He is expecting with Ella Carlsen. We now see pawn a3, of course, trying to go after that pawn chain. Fabi wanting his own spa day, and now we see takes on d4. Bishop recaptures. These ones go into the chocolate blender. Knight c6. Don't blunder your queen. And as ever, Magnus understands that he's allowing a check, but actually it's not a problem. Wasn't a bad move either, by the way, if white played this. Fabi didn't, but it's not an issue. You drop back, game goes on. It's something different. How does he always understand this stuff? So much expansion in that huge brain of his. You can really see why the hair's been growing out lately. Got to make room for some grey matter, of course. Queen d2 was played, though, by Fabi. Now we see a5. Pawn f4 here, and e5 in response. Really fascinating, dynamic position. You could push on. You could take this pawn, but then I wasn't sure if it was takes here. I didn't explore this line. Looks like knight d4 is very strong. I mean, it just shows the dynamism of the position. You'll come in here. If castles, what's the trick? Rook a6. Don't tell me the queen's getting trapped. Looks like it is. We're analysing on the fly. This is nuts. I mean, I love the dynamism in these positions. I think that's what's drawing me to want to give this modern opening a go. I play a lot of hippo structures. This seems a natural progression. But Fabi dropped the knight back anyway. We saw an exchange. Queen recaptures, pressuring the pawn. And taking with this knight, or moving this knight rather, is best. You open up the bishop and you open up the c-file. But Magnus goes with this one. But it's not obvious why it's so bad still. Queen h4 apparently good, looking for some stuff, but missed. Fabi plays the natural 0-0-0, but unbelievably, it's this huge swing in the evaluation suddenly. And yet if you go queen h4 and then castle, it's good. Way too subtle for me. Bishop a6 now played. Don't blunder your horsey there. It centralises. I mean, how are the most natural moves in the world getting question marks? Bishop f3 apparently best. Kind of understandable when the bishop's so bad. But anyway, it centralises. Magnus takes here. Rook recaptures. And he should simply start ripping open the position now with pawn takes. But he plays queen c7. Also understandable. Queen f6 from Fabi, good move. Rook c8 threatens mate in 1, and Fabi really should be playing rook d2 here. A little bit surprising that he didn't do that. I mean, it's just the square. That's where the rook belongs. Don't start messing with the structure. But he plays the horrible pawn c3. Now, of course, if takes, you're fine. Knight takes. But Magnus didn't do that. You could take here, but also not played. Instead, it was played, sorry. I'm talking rubbish. I was getting mixed up with another line. After pawn takes now, you could immediately attack the knight, which is defending the pawn. But this is quite instructive. There's a check. King's chased up here somewhere. I mean, let's say d7, and you can take here. If it had gone to e7, there's this perpetual stuff. If d7, you lose a piece with the pin, but then there's takes here and crashing through. So still black's doing well. But anyway, Magnus didn't want to allow this stuff. So he goes knight d7, hits the queen. He could now step to e7 upon check, and there's no knight hanging. So we see this. Oh, and also the queen covers, the knight covers the checking square from the queen. So we see takes here, but Magnus, of course, only too happy to chop the ladies off the board. Few of his fans start bleating. And here's the big problem. With that horrible c3 move, you just attack the defender of the pawn. Knight b6, takes with check. King b2, rook h3 hits this bishop here. You know, Magnus seeing some deep stuff. Looks like he was hanging too many pieces at once or whatever. But no, we get takes. Bishop recaptures. This one covers over here. And after bishop e6, now e5 played, Magnus can start checking the king. Don't step this way or you run into this tactic. Check, losing a rook. So instead we see this. Pawn drops. Now bishop check. King stepping up, and a lovely re-maneuvering of the pieces. We get an exchange of prisoners here, and after this moment of defending the pawn, Magnus now makes way for the king to march in, round it up. But look at this, bishop e8. Now, whether Fabi fully saw the actual subtlety of that move, who knows? He might have just thought, you know, takes and takes and takes, and oh, I might be on that. But no, maybe he actually saw the true point of this, or he would have done, I suspect, if we'd have got here. There's an awesome tactic. Can you find the best move for white? The move is bishop takes on f7 check, because if king captures, you pick up the rook, and if you, what was the other line here? Sidestep. Then after takes, king takes, you don't swap the bishops, you actually take the pawn, and this is a dead draw. So that's what would have been played upon takes, but we didn't see it. We saw instead rook g4, and now Fabi blunders and decisively loses the game. Did Magnus set up this trap, by the way? This is so cool. Fabi plays rook f1. Big blunder, but only because of Magnus's last move. You know, did he anticipate, oh, Fabi's going to go for the base of my chain. Look where his king is. Wham! Skewer snipers him down that diagonal. He probably saw this. I suspect he set this trap deliberately. Fabi falls in, hook, line and sinker. If you move the king, rook drops off the board, and that is a done game. Magnus on fire in this day 4 of the Blitz. Day 5 a bit more subdued, a lot of draws, 1 loss to Nodebek, but 2 wins also, I think 2 wins. Anyway, hope you enjoyed. Congrats to Magnus. Commiserations to Gukesh, who had such a big start, but really faded hard in the Blitz, unfortunately. Needs to work on that faster time control. Maybe play some more Title Tuesday, right? Thanks a lot for watching. Have a look at the video on screen in case you missed the Magnus Gukesh epic Blitz game. Yeah, I think it was Blitz game. And I hope you have a great day. Cheers.